All right, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the program. And just looking at some of the news coming out of Syria this morning, or in this week rather, as expected by the UN ahead of negotiations, Russia and China this week vetoed a UN Security Council resolution that would have extended authorization for cross border humanitarian aid in Syria for a year. Beyond Russia and China, the 13 other council members voted to approve the draft, diplomats said. And it has been described as a despicable move by Amnesty International on behalf of what Russia and China have done. I'm joined now online by independent international relations analyst Zinat Adam. Assalamu alaikum, Zinat. Can you hear me this morning?
Assalamu alaikum. It's a little bit difficult for me, but I'm going to try and see how we can get the discussion going around what's going on in Syria.
All right, there's a slight delay, but I think it's bearable right now in the transmission. All right, what's happening on the ground in terms of UN aid deliveries uh, into Syria? Is it being allowed, and why are the people trying to stop it?
So from December, there's been the resolution 2504 that was proposed for an extension of the mandate of the United Nations to be able to deliver aid from various crossing points, border crossing points into that extension and the mandate comes to an end today. So in the last week, we've seen a couple of resolutions that have been tabled. The first one was requesting an extension of that mandate for a period, and that was sponsored by Germany and Belgium, and that was vetoed by Russia. This was the 15th time that Russia has vetoed resolution in relation to Syria, and that is because they are directly involved and supportive of the Syrian regime and have been a part to the bombing of the Syrian civilians. They then put forward a counter resolution that was proposed, and that was rejected by most UN members. They all got support from China, Vietnam, and South Africa. That proposal was to only allow one crossing point, and that would be limited, and all other aid would have to be approved and go through Damascus. The argument on that is that Damascus have sovereignty and territorial integrity, and that in allowing the United Nations and other parties to deliver aid from other border crossings, this impedes on that territorial integrity. The problem in handing over everything to Bashar al-Assad and his government, he has already utilized aid and stopped aid from going into the northern territories and actually forced people into starvation and into submission to the government. And that is expected to happen going forward. So there has been a third resolution for this week. It was supposed to go to vote anytime from last night to today being the final deadline. And that was to have 2 border crossings open for the next 6 months. And then that would go under review. If that doesn't pass, what it essentially means is that all border crossings close. Everything has to be routed through Damascus. And we're looking at a possibility of famine and strife continuing or even worsening in the Syrian Free Territories.
Mm-hmm. Now, is this diplomacy or are these actually war tactics that are at play right now? Because it seems that ultimately people's lives are the bargaining chip.
Sorry, I
Uh,
don't hear you.
I said it seems as if people's lives are the bargaining chip in terms of political leverage. I mean, it just seems extremely unethical that the innocent young people, children, elderly, people that are not involved in the actual conflict are now being used for political maneuvering. All right, we seem to have lost Zinat there for the moment. Let's see if we can try and if she gets back onto line. But I think basically she summed it up. Uh, One border crossing is what has been proposed. The UN is looking at having two border crossings opened, one at what is known as Babu Salam in the north of the Syrian territories, and one is Babul Hawa, which is in the northwestern areas of the Idlib province, Syria. And these two crossings allow food and supplies to reach people at different angles and in different areas. Certainly, closing off one permanently is just going to result in the further suffering that Syrian civilians will face inside of the Idlib area, which is now under the control of rebel forces for quite some time. The northern areas, the Babu Salam border region, is under Turkish control. So this is the situation right now. We'll try and see as the situation develops. Perhaps next week we'll get a further update from Zenith Adam, independent political analyst and international relations expert, as to the developments of this grave humanitarian story.